any lightsaber stuff that's happening since Mando season 1 to now are really clunky and lack good visual aesthetics.
Right.
They need a Russo brothers. They need a Zack Snyder. They need someone who has a visual language for fight sequences. I just watched The Gray Man on Netflix, the new Russo brothers film.
Yeah.
Those fight sequences are great. They're so fun.
I've heard some really mixed reviews about it.
It's not the greatest movie.
Because I know it's based on a novel, but people also said it feels like it's a product.
I can agree with that. The Russo brothers do kind of feel like they're the safe guys you get to make your...
Well, I think they've made that clear.
But-
we make things that create numerical value.
But I would argue of the Marvel stable of directors, they are the ones with the most personality.
Yeah.
Their action sequences in Endgame or something, or in Infinity War are really great, where a lot of other people, like Taika Waititi, kind of tend to lack personality with their fight sequences.
Because they don't really care about the fights.
I would argue in Thor: Love and Thunder, which I liked more than I thought I would.
I'll need to watch it so we can do an episode on it.
Is a better attempt at that, I think, but it's still not enough. Star Wars needs personality. And I think my biggest problem with those fight scenes, if I tell you, remember the fight scene between Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan and Darth Maul?
Yeah.
You're closing your eyes right now.
I could visualize all of it.
All the best parts of it.
And also a lot of it is that
You brought
score.
up one a second ago, like the behind the back thing. When Obi-Wan
waiting
about
behind
to
the
go
thing,
down,
and
as soon as it comes down, Obi-Wan sprints at him full speed,
and
it's such a greatly choreographed. Is it over stylized? Yeah, probably a little bit. I don't care. I remember it.
I remember being in theaters watching it, and like when those blast shields go down, and Qui-Gon just sits down and meditates while.
And then as soon as the thing comes up, they go at it.
And that feeling of despair when it's just like Obi-Wan can't do anything.
Yeah, it's really awful, and it's tense in a movie that is almost completely charisma free in a lot of ways.
Yes, it is
those
surprisingly.
Have,
and again, John Williams bringing the thunder with Duel of the Fates being probably one of the greatest things he's ever composed.
Exactly.
That's another thing about this is
when we talked about like the Winter Soldier highway fight.
Yeah,
you can remember all the cool
big parts of it.
The part where the knife goes into the truck and gets scraped into it.
A lot of shield flying around and stuff.
Yeah, like Star Wars needs personality. These fights are fine, but they're bland.
And I feel like you made a good point about. I feel like after in the fallout and negative look back on the prequels, everyone's like it's overly stylized. If you go back to the original movies, it's clunky like a real sword fight, and now they found this awkward middle ground where neither works.
No, I think that we've overcorrected.
That's what I mean. It's an awkward middle ground where it doesn't work.
And like Obi-Wan does the little General Grievous thing where he goes and he does the little two fingers.
Yeah, he does the little two thing. His little move right there.
And I was like, oh, cool, we're gonna get some. Nope. And then he wins the fight by throwing CGI rocks at him. I'm just like, I want to be more enthusiastic about this, but Star Wars needs. Like Daredevil is a great example of
fight choreography.
Well, fight choreography, but putting in the time.
Yeah.
John Bernthal said, like in season 2 of Daredevil, when they were doing all those fights, and like his prison fight is a good example. He said, "We're doing movie quality fights, but in half the time because it's a TV show. We got to go." And he was talking about people like Drew Goddard was one of the creatives behind Daredevil, like season 1 and stuff, and we remember those fight scenes. Star Wars,
the first one where he's just got the regular blindfold on and he's doing that hallway fight, akin to like something from The Raid.
Yep. Or even another good example would be like the staircase fight in season 2, where he's going down with the chain and he's fighting bikers with it. It's so good, and they have a great stable of directors that made those fights interesting. Deborah Chow is good at a lot of things. They need
a fight choreographer.
They might have one, but what you need is, before the fight choreographer even happens, you have to have a person at the head of the project who has a vision for those things.
Right.
You need like a Zack Snyder. You need a Russo brothers. You need a George Lucas. You need a person that is invested in making this look a certain way.
Right.
It's a visual medium.
Because also there was a big problem in the latter episodes, which is the fight in the canyon is so dark that the only things you can see are lightsabers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is everything so dark? Come on, a little artificial lighting just to help us know what we're watching should be essential.
Yeah, I remember Batman fighting in a dingy warehouse and I could see all of it.
Right.
Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like,
but even like the Batman fighting in the subway, it still had enough natural light that I could be able to see things in the murk.
Yeah. All sorts of stuff that are shot dark. You'd be surprised how much light is in that shot to make it look a certain way. So
that takes a lot of work because you have to test a lot of stuff.
That's another good example is like that fight where Batman beats up the thugs or when he's fighting some of the dudes. Maybe the end of the film fight the Batman, maybe less so, but I would argue still has a lot of personality. You can have personality without having like millions and millions of dollars at your budget and months to do pre-production or whatever. Like Iron Fist is a show that had a ton of money at its disposal, but the fight choreography people and the actor himself, I think, didn't really do a lot of training or whatever for it. And it shows because those fights are boring.
Yeah.
Season 2, they gave a shit and the fights were better. Like, I hate to nitpick over something as simple as the fights, but it matters to me because it's an action series.
It's an action series, yeah. It's an adventure series. Sword fights are important.
Yeah.
And also different characters have different styles.
And the fact that I'm seeing Obi-Wan shoot a fake laser blast at people a bunch through the first 2 episodes, I'm just like, God, I'm so bored right now. Like,
we haven't even brought up. God, I haven't even brought up when him and Leia wear a trench coat and try to escape when he looks like a homeless man in a trench coat.
Yeah.
That's so stupid. That's so stupid. I'm sorry.
It's almost smart because they might look over a homeless man in a way, but like they don't make a point of making that clear.
I was kind of like, wow, really?
Yeah.
It's 2 Jedi in a
but I do like the don't touch anything. Yeah, don't look at anything. Don't say anything.
I did like also
stop being a child full of joy.
In the when they close off the hatch and break the water through and the stormtroopers just floating in there.
Yeah.
There's some good little moments.
Yes.
And you know,
that's like we're talking about. It's dragged out, and then the moments are these little spurts, little sprints in between. But like,
and talking about Leia, it was that moment where they're having that conversation, and he, we talk so much about Anakin, but he mentions like, no, you remind me of your mother.
Mm-hmm. Great.
You are so much Padme.
All the emotional beats are really satisfying, or whatever.
And it also makes sense because we now know Padme, and it's earned because we now know the person that Leia becomes, and it's like, no, she's not just some. That's the whole thing that made Princess Leia so cool back in '77 was that she wasn't a damsel in distress. She was a freedom fighter who could kick
garbage
ass.
chute, flyboy.
Yeah.
I just
she's her mother.
Yeah. I just wish that the action moments were handled with as much care as let's not ruin the canon and good
also
acting
things could
performances.
Be tightened down, edited a
little
more.
But I think this is not a criticism I have of Obi-Wan. This is a criticism I have of all the Disney Plus properties.
Yeah.
Like, period. Even Mandalorian, as good as it is, like I still think back to like the Ahsoka Tano episode where we go and meet her for the first time and she's killing those dudes in the woods, and I'm just like, I can't remember anything that she really does.
Right.
It's just like,
but I kind of remember that fight later on the bridge with the steel spear with the Beskar spear.
Yeah, that's all right.
That's a good episode.
It needs more
personality.
The only way you're going to have more is if you take the time to get people. Like, I feel like Bryce Dallas Howard, if she was going to direct an episode, I feel like she has the vision to be like, I want this fight to look cool.
Well, it's the fight that Mando and the guy have on that little bridge there.
It's pretty good.
That stands out because
the vibrating knife blade
because they both have 2 very visual ways they look. One's a bruiser, one's faster.
Yeah.
One's literally Oberyn Martell.
We work in a reason as to why it gets harder and harder for him to use that sword.
Yeah, and
because it makes it heavier each time you swing it.
Yeah.
I just want more personality, and I think that would go a long way to, like, that's why I've always said what Star Wars needs is a series where they can flex those muscles, and the best example is like Sith Lords. 2 Sith Lords hacking off limbs, not giving a fuck.
Right.
Because if you can do that, like, Logan is streaming on Disney Plus right now. Like, it's not gonna
Deadpool, both of them are now.
Yeah. So, like, I'm not saying make it R-rated, but I'm saying you have enough wiggle room. Just get a director with some personality.
Or I've always had the idea of a bounty hunter series that's just brutal. That's just like the Dirty Dozen of bounty hunters, and people like we see the nasty side of it, like laser blasts blow people's heads off and stuff like that. Like the R-rated,
take chunks out of you the size of a grapefruit.
Just James Gunn's Star Wars, Sam Peckinpah's Star Wars, Quentin Tarantino's Star Wars.
And when I hear that, like, Taika Waititi's gonna do a Star Wars movie, and I'm like, interesting, but you know what's not gonna happen? Any cool fight scenes?
No.
I'm willing to be proven wrong, but I just want to feel that energy.
I do too.
In these sort of actions.
That's why it's kind of disappointing in Book of Boba Fett that the great Robert Rodriguez isn't really showing off.
Exactly, and I was so certain that if anyone can do it, it would be him.
It would be,
but
the
guy from Sin City.
Yeah, the guy directed Sin City,
and Battle Angel Alita. Yes,
yeah,
he did that one too. Full of great, energetic, sort of action-y scenes. Even if I don't think it's always a great movie, but like I think
at least it's fun.
Is it just Disney? Do they just sand the edges off of everybody?
Yeah, it tends to happen sometimes. I don't know.
But the Russo brothers managed to do it, which means either Disney.
But they also got in ahead of time.
I guess
before the homogenization.
You're probably right. I don't know.